potential and focus on your performance. Look into your future and power up your purpose. Power people, let's change our mindset, people. Let's empower people to see all their potential when they power up and make your official. Maximize your performance and focus on your potential. Look into your future and power up your purpose.
Welcome to the Power Up Show. Maximize your potential. What's going on, Cheryl? How you doing?
I am doing fabulous. I am doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. I was waiting all day for this moment because, we're on the Power Up Show. This is the place where innovation meets transformation, and we're going to help people achieve this one goal. And what's that, Cheryl?
That's to power up.
All right. So I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm your host, Cheryl.
And we are excited to be here on Inspire Magazine, Dreamspire TV with you today because we have an incredible guest who's going to join us today. Now, his name is Shawn Channell. I hope I said his last name right. He's the founder and podcast host of Just Launch. He's also a coach, he's a trainer, and he's a speaker. So today, we're going to have an opportunity to chat with him today about how he is helping salespeople improve their results. So stay tuned. You won't want to miss what we have in store for you next. All right, welcome back to the Power Up Show, Maximize Your Potential with Eric and Cheryl. Please be sure to like us on Facebook at Power Up, Maximize Your Potential, and check out our Power Up tips, our Power Up posts. They include all types of motivational tips and best practices to help you maximize your potential. And you can also view the recent shows we've had with our great, amazing guests doing some amazing things.
Absolutely. We have had some amazing guests over the past year, and starting 2021, the good just keeps getting better.
And we starting off strong this year, Cheryl. We are having a great, strong start to the new year with our guests. I tell you that.
Absolutely. And our guest today is so dear to our heart because he's from organizational development. But Shawn spent a decade struggling in a sales career. And from his sales experience and what not to do, he finally figured it out. And he's learned how to do it effectively. And from that, he has launched what is called Just Launch. And for the past 14 years, Shawn has been coaching, developing, and training salespeople and sales leaders to produce results. His salespeople have become six-figure earners and some of the top professionals in their sales positions. And many have gone on to become top-level sales leaders. And in Just Launch, they have two areas of focus, and that's strategic communication and strategic leadership. So let's go ahead and bring Shawn in and find out how he helps people power up.
Yeah, come on in, Shawn.
Come into the room.
There he is.
How are you today, Shawn?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. All is well.
Yeah, doing fantastic.
Glad to hear that.
Well, Shawn, we are so excited to have you here because, trainers love trainers, right? We all love trainers, and we could probably have conversations for hours just on methodology and practices and all things that we learn from one another and things that we have as our own areas of focus. But we only have 30 minutes, so we're going to let you talk. There you go. So, Shawn, let's start out with Launch Media, or Just Launch. So tell us, how are you helping salespeople grow their sales organizations, and what is your organization about?
Yeah, really, our focus is giving salespeople something practical. I mean, there's a ton of theories out there and a ton of great theories out there. One of the gaps that a lot of salespeople find when they're going through, whether it's a training course or reading a book, is how do I take this theory and put it into practice? Mm-hmm. And our training program is really based on giving them something that they can use through the workshop we go through and help them develop their conversation flow from that initial contact, whether it's email or voicemail, all the way through that closing conversation. So it's about giving them the tools to have the conversation versus just talking about, build relationships or, keep dialing, which are all important things, but we give them actual strategies to help them accomplish those tasks.
It's so important you said that. It's funny because I go back years when the concept used to be just keep dialing. Dialing and smiling. That's what it was. Dialing and smiling. So, Shawn.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of years doing that.
Yeah, right. So tell us about that, because this is really what had you launch your business, is that you went through that full gamut of, I did this and that didn't work. I did this and that didn't work, until you literally realized what you were doing wrong.
Yeah, and it was spread out over tons of different industries. I did the real estate, and in real estate, you focus on getting your license, but not really the sales aspects of that. And I had established realtors saying, well, you just got to do this and this and this. But one of the challenges is that there's a lot of good salespeople that don't realize what makes them good, because they were just good. They were always good. And so they're just like, well, I just build relationships, or I just put the customer first, and those things, again, they're wonderful. But if I don't know how to do them, telling me to build relationships doesn't help anybody. I did car sales, and again, it was the same kind of messaging that came to me. And so I struggled. I failed. I spent almost 2 years in real estate, and I dropped out. I did a 6-month stint in car sales, dropped out, and then went to college and got my degree, and then went back into car sales because obviously I didn't learn my lesson the first time. Dropped out of that. Door to door, I spent 2.5 years doing. That didn't necessarily teach me how to be a good salesperson, but it certainly taught me how to deal with rejection. So the fear of being rejected that I'd struggled with in real estate and car sales was gone after 2 weeks of knocking on 100 doors per day. Because as you can imagine, when you're knocking on someone's house at 6:30 in the evening, you don't necessarily get warm and fuzzy responses. So
yeah, it's like, you better have a darn good reason for showing up at my doorstep, right?
Yeah.
Or a pizza.
Well, and funny is one of the promotions. It was a promotional advertising company, kind of similar to Groupon before there was Groupon, but pizza was, Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut were all big clients of ours, and so oftentimes I would be out there with pizza delivery guys, but I'm in a shirt, tie, suit. They're hiding behind the door frame, going, who is this guy out here? So. But those are the types of things that if you use the lessons, become valuable later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. And, you responded to one of the questions I already had teed up, but I kind of want to press you a little bit on it. You talked about your 2 years doing door-to-door sales. And my original question was, how has this experience, how has it prepared you for what you're doing now? And you already talked about rejection, but let me just press you a little bit further on that. So, why do people need to embrace that rejection? Why is that so important? How did that help you, and how do you think that helps other people?
Yep. I think it helps 2 ways. Just one, it built a toughness in me. As a business owner, there's a lot of challenges. So, I'm still dealing with rejection from, partners, from potential clients. And just the struggles of building something. There's setbacks, there's disappointments. So that mental toughness was really built in me through that constant rejection. We're talking 65,000 people told me no over the course of 2 years and in various forms. So, you get really mentally tough. But the other aspect from just a pure sales perspective is beyond the toughness. There's often times where your product or service isn't necessarily the right thing for the client at that moment, but it doesn't mean it's not the right thing for that client at some point. And so learning some patience along with that rejection, that it's okay if they tell me no. It means one of two things. Either I didn't do a good job, and that's really on me, and so I need to come back with a better set of questions, a better pitch, a better conversation, or it's just not the right time. And if it's not the right time, that's okay. It doesn't mean that in 6 weeks or 6 months or even 6 years that they won't have a need for my product or service. I just need to be patient and persistent and be able to come back and have that conversation with them again at some point in the future.
Well said. Well said. I mean, I think I've heard similar things, but I like how you crystallized it down, because my takeaway from this is that you learn something from your failures, from that rejection. It really helps you focus on what you can do differently or probably improve on, or maybe you need to practice a little bit more patience, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're really listening to the customer, they may not need what you need, what you're serving them right now, but maybe later, right? And I think you mentioned it, and Cheryl and I have mentioned it on our shows. It's all about relationships, because once you talk to that person, right, you're not just trying to sell them something. You're not a commodity. You're building a relationship. You're trying to establish rapport, and that's the long game right there. It takes time to cultivate that. So yeah, I really like what you learned, and I think a lot of people who are tuning in, especially our professionals, I think they're really gonna grab hold of that and implement it in their profession.
Yeah, I used to threaten my salespeople all the time to make them do door to door. I'm like, you think this job's tough? Let's go knock on some doors for a weekend, and we'll see how you handle that. You'll come back on Monday and think this is a piece of cake. So, that strong, that sense of rejection. A lot of people let it stop them, and that's easy to do and it's understandable. But at the end of the day, sales is part numbers game. But life is part numbers game. There's never going to be just a perfect scenario for us consistently. And so we have to play the odds and know that, when we're rolling the dice, sometimes it's going to come in our favor, sometimes it's not, but we just kind of keep rolling. And if we stop rolling, that's when we lose. That's when we fail.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, this is a really great discussion. I tell you, I mean, Shawn, you are definitely dropping some serious gems for us. Definitely appreciate it. I think we're going to pause just briefly. We're going to take a quick break. So stay tuned, everyone. You're going to hear more from Shawn and how he's helping others grow their business, especially during this time of disruption. So just stay tuned. Welcome back. We've been talking with Shawn Channell, founder and podcast host of Just Launched. He's a coach, he's a trainer, he's a speaker. I got a question for you. So, everyone here, we know when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? We all know that saying. But for you kind of took it a step further, like a few steps further. I was reading about you, and you talk about how you turned a minimum wage sales job into a six-figure career. How the heck did you do that? What can you share for us that we can help other people do the same thing?
Well, again, it was a lot of that it was just the accumulation of all of that rejection. So I had gotten into technology, sales, and they brought you in essentially at minimum wage with a commission plan. And I had never done phone sales. And so there was a lot of fear for me around everything I'd done was face-to-face. But, the fear factor, fortunately, on being hung up, the worst thing someone's going to do on the phone is maybe yell at you or hang up on you. Well, when you've had people sick their dogs or call the cops or pull guns, you're not scared anymore of the rejection piece. And so there was a lot of smiling and dialing in that. But along the way, it became, okay, I need to figure out what do people want. And really what people want comes down to three things. That they have to trust you they have to trust you, right? And that's that relationship piece. And that really comes to that long game. They have to trust your company, and they have to trust your product. And so really it was just, okay, there's different requirements for them to do all three of those things. And so what I did is I started asking questions around each one of those topics specifically to help understand what was important to them. Some people, they want me to be funny. Some people want me to be, responsive. So others want me to be forthright. Some people want me to be all three. But the only way I can understand which one you want me to be is to ask you what it is that you look for when you work with a salesperson, or when you work with a consultant, or when you work with a partner. And then you start listing out all those things that you might want from your dream salesperson. And then really all I have to do is help you understand how I can accomplish those. Right? And the same thing with my products. What is it you want from this training series? What do you want from this laptop? What do you want from this, server? Or what do you want from your new car? Right? And if you understand what they want from that product, then you can help say, well, here's how that product delivers that. And so it took about 6 months for me to really kind of formulate the conversation piece, the conversation flow. But once I did that, I started it was weird how rapidly I was acquiring customers. It was 3 or 4 new business accounts every single week. And, I'd acquire, 10, 12, 15 new customers a month. And we're talking customers that were spending anywhere from $10,000 to, $100,000 a month with me. And so this portfolio of business just really exploded on me. And I was able to take that and then, make a pretty good amount of money as a salesperson. But because I had developed a system, I was then asked to go train other people how to do this system. And to be honest with you, I wasn't good at that either. Being good at something is different than training someone to be good at something. And you guys both have coached and spoke and work with leaders. It's just it's a whole different skill set. So I failed at leadership for a good 6 months to a year. I apologize to those salesperson people that were on those teams. But then I was able to develop those same skills, just that same tenacity, and then move up the ranks as a sales leader within the same company. And eventually then I was asked to create a whole training department. So I built out, I took built out a new hire program through ongoing training, leadership development. And that was really when I had gone from a corporate perspective. I need to take this and give it to more people, right? Like I've done this for this company for the last 14 years. I can do this for lots of companies. And that's when we created Just Launch, which started as the podcast, but moved into the training aspect. And now we've got clients in offices around the globe.
Wow.
Amazing. I love that story.
So impressive.
Yeah, I love that story because, to what you said, it's like when you start out, you're going through this myriad of testings and people saying, just do this because they were successful at it, but they're not successful at showing someone how to do it.
Yeah.
And so you literally took that and formulated a program around that to whereas now you can show people how to implement it step by step. Because I think what you said also is that whatever we do in life, it's sales. Either you're selling yourself, you're selling something, and people just need to get that it's all sales. It's how effectively are you selling? And I think you've mastered that with Just Launch, because tell us a little bit about your 2 programs. You have strategic communication and strategic leadership.
Yep. So strategic communication is really designed for the individual and or sales teams. We work with both. I have individual clients that in some cases we work just really on their communication skills for life. So we take that selling is life mentality and we build it into whatever it is that they do, whether it's their focus on their parenting, focus on their career aspirations or their relationships, and help them become better communicators. The leadership, strategic leadership, is really about the lessons I learned as a bad sales leader, and turning that into something that people can use to become better at the leadership aspect. And really, it's around communication. At the end of the day, our communication skills impacts every aspect of our lives. It's how we communicate with our spouses, our significant others, our peers in the workplace, our bosses. It's how we communicate with our children. It's how we communicate with each other. And the better we become at communicating, the more impactful and meaningful those relationships that we have really turn out to be.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Shawn, for someone that is, when you think of people that are just coming out of college, the first thing they do, they always get a sales job. It's like that's the first job that everybody gets, is that sales job. And then they end up hating it. Mm-hmm. So if I was that individual, can you give me 3 things to really think about that will help me go, okay, this is not the worst job in the world to be my first job, but I have now 3 things that I can just kind of think about as I'm going into this career?
Yep. Yeah. One is, sales is one of the highest paid professions. So if making a lot of money is really your goal, then it's not a bad path to go. Right? 2 is you're probably going to have to invest in your own training, your own development. There's a lot of, again, sales organizations out there that don't have the resources or the structure in place to provide the training and the information and the tools needed for these young salespeople to be successful. And oftentimes their sales leaders, as we've kind of talked about, they were good salespeople, and it doesn't necessarily make them good sales leaders. So they don't necessarily have the skills required to develop their teams. And so that's why you see a lot of that turnover and people flash out, is the organization isn't able, and maybe some cases willing, but most times it's just they're just not able to develop them. So making that investment in yourself. And you're right, we see a ton of people come out of college, they've just spent 4 years investing in themselves, and they get a sales role and they stop making that investment. When really there's a lot of great resources, a lot of great coaches, a lot of great trainings out there that if they took just a little bit of money and put it into their career, they'd see a completely different outcome, and they'd be able to get to that upper echelon of money makers. But I think the third thing, and this might be just the most important, is you're always gonna have ups and downs in life, and it's all aspects. And sales is a lot of ups and downs. Right? We all know that feeling of making that big sale, or even that first sale, that high that we get on, that rush of adrenaline, that like I'm king of the world. And we also know that it's now been 2 weeks and all I've gotten is voicemails. And no one's called me back. I must suck. I must be the worst person in the world. I can't do this. I got to give up. And that's life. That's, we're going to have high moments in our relationships on a personal level. We're going to have low moments in our careers. We're going to have, ups and downs. And if you just look at it from a learning perspective, like it's just because you got done with college doesn't mean that we should stop learning. People say you're a grown up now. And I've tried to, with our kids, get away from saying that you're a grown up, because none of us should stop being grown. Like none of us should stop growing. We might be adults by legal definitions, but we shouldn't stop growing at any aspects of our lives. And so just look at everything from a learning perspective, and it changes your mentality.
It does. And I think something that you mentioned, I always call it the peaks and valleys, right? Is that we're going to have those peaks and valleys, whether it be in life or in sales. So how do you stay on the peak longer and get through that valley a lot quicker and more effectively, right? So that you don't have to be there very long. So I think that's really, really important. So I want to talk about resources. So what resources have you used to help you through your process? What resources would you offer as for help for someone else?
Yeah. I mean, there's countless. I mean, I started reading self-help books, Tony Robbins being one of the first back when I was in high school. So, I've always believed in self-education and using those things out there. So you both have written books, that would probably be impactful to a young person to learn how to navigate themselves through the workplace and life. So there's always, there's dozens, hundreds of books out there that you can do that. We also have a lot of new tools that I didn't necessarily have as a young person. The show, for example, right? Something like this, YouTube has provided a platform that you can really self-educate. In fact, you could probably argue that you could become more educated by investing 4 years on YouTube than you can in a university. But in addition to that, if you use the platforms correctly, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Cheryl, we're Facebook friends. I see you every single day putting out content that inspires, right? Educates, motivates, and, having that be your Facebook feed versus, people talking about a bunch of politics or getting drunk at the bar, or, we can cultivate what we like and what we consume into a way that provides us with constant positivity and education and inspiration. And that to me is what I've surrounded myself with, especially over the last, 5-6 years, as I've been preparing to make this transition into my own business. And, I don't have a boss right now to say, good job and give me a pat on the back. So I need to make sure that I'm surrounding myself with the right people that inspire me to keep me, going when I'm feeling a little bit down.
Well, I tell you what, Shawn, we talk about resources. I'm going to be looking forward to that manuscript that comes out, that you're going to author one of these days about these practical steps to improve people's sales. Because I tell you, just hearing from you today, you've definitely got a book in you. You've got some resources to share. You've got something, you've got a lot of other things to offer, man. So I'm looking forward to that one of these days.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's on my to-do list. I'm working on 2 online courses currently. The first one should be out hopefully by end of January. Second one should be out sometime within the next few months. That has been a big learning curve for me. But I think that will be my first step before I get into a book. Although I've learned that there's a lot of writing involved in making an online course. So
I tell you what, though, with that online course, it's halfway there.
Yeah, it's been, again, you always have to learn. You always have to push.
Right.
I'm not someone who has spent a lot of time in front of a camera. And, all my experience has really been face-to-face, whether that was training or sales. And so to, record yourself, be comfortable in front of a camera, listen to yourself, watch yourself. It's been a whole new experience that honestly, it's been a little weird.
So, Shawn, being here on the Power Up Show, and what you just described is literally how you maximize your potential.
Mm-hmm.
Just investing in yourself and using all the resources and surrounding yourself with individuals that are encouraging and inspiring, and those that will just at some point kick you in the butt when you need to get kicked, right? And say, okay, yeah, you got this. Just get up and do it. I think we all need those people. They call them your posse of dreamers and people that help you focus. So, Eric, you know what's coming next, right?
Oh, yeah, I was waiting for this one.
So here on the Power Up Show, before any of our guests leave, we have what we call our Power Up cards. And you, my friend, from wherever you are, where are you, Shawn?
I'm just outside of Seattle, Washington.
Oh, it's beautiful there, isn't it?
Not this time of year, but if you visit between July and September, it's very beautiful. The rest of the year, it depends if you like rain and clouds.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, I'm going to give you something that's going to let you power up some other individuals. So here we have our cards, and I'm going to ask you to just go ahead and you just go like that. You're going to pick a card from all the way in Seattle, Washington, and we're going to ask you whatever question is on that card. So you just pick one.
Right. Yep. Okay.
I think it's that one. There you go. You did. Oh, no, that's the instructions on how to do it.
Well, see, that was what I needed first.
All right. Here you go, Shawn. What challenge do you want to overcome?
What challenge do I want to overcome? I think for me at this point where I'm at, the challenge that I want to overcome most is how do I personally scale my organization? So I help a lot of companies that are small or even sometimes even mid-size build that sales organization. And for me as a solopreneur at this point, my next step is how do I, start to scale my organization out there? The sales side is great, and I'm comfortable with that. The administrative side is really, as a business owner, where I'm having to learn a lot. And that's really my next step. That's the challenge that I'm focusing on right now within my own business. On a personal note, we've all had to make adjustments in how we're doing our lives with, over the last year with the pandemic. I'm now a part-time teacher for, our littlest one. We don't get out of the house. I'm, working from home. So part of my, next steps is how do I make sure that I'm as impactful and effective when working with people when I can't be there in front of them. That's important to me. And learning how to use the tools like Zoom and these different online communication tools in a way that still helps me reach people and impact them. That's important to me. I've done that in an in-person environment, but I don't, yet have the skills to run a show like Power Up. And, after watching lots of your guys' episodes, you guys have a real impact on the people that watch this. And that's that next level for me, is how do I make something like this beneficial and maybe even follow in your footsteps.
I'll share something with you. Get an engineer so you don't have to have me push buttons, because they don't like me to push buttons. I take people out of the broadcast. I take myself out of the broadcast. They're like, where'd she go? I hit a button. But I think that's great. I think that's great. We are all, to your point, right in that adjustment stage. Like, how do we make all of these things happen and still be at the top of the game, at the top of our games? And, especially if you're used to being like high on the leaderboard, and now you're trying to, work with your kids and their technology, and then you've got your own thing going on, and you've got, your personal going on. It's like, okay, sometimes you just got to go, okay, I give up. Today is just
there are days.
Exactly. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for coming on to Power Up, Maximize Your Potential, and sharing with us the benefits of connecting with you on Just Launch and how you can help businesses to power up. So, Shawn, very quickly, how do we get in touch with you if individuals are looking to connect with you and your podcast? Tell us how to get to the podcast also.
Yeah, the podcast is called Just Launch. It's available on all the podcast platforms out there. You can also visit my website, which is just-launch.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Shawn Channell. You can find Just Launch on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm open to connect via Facebook, Instagram. I'm on all those social media platforms as well as Just Launches as well. And, I'm always open to having conversations. And I honestly have a lot of direct contact with a lot of young salespeople who have a lot of questions. And to me, if I can help them just in, some email back and forth, a couple DMs back and forth, overcome one of their challenges, that's valuable to me. That helps me know that I'm taking what I messed up on and helping someone else avoid it. And ultimately, that's why I got into sales leadership, was to help people avoid the mistakes that I had made.
Well said. Yeah, well said.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a blast. You guys are doing something really powerful here, and I'm glad I get to be a part of it for one episode.
So glad to have you on, man. Thank you very much.
All right. You have an amazing day.
You too.
Right. Wow. That was a great episode. You know what? You know, there's one word I can use to describe him is, I think, authentic. It's like really authentic. You know, he doesn't, play any games. He's just himself. You know, I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards him. I think that's why he's so successful.
Mm-hmm. You know, the whole thing about sales is that, it is one of those scary professions that people go, oh, yeah, that's easy to do. I can do that. And then you get into it and realize you don't have the true skill sets.
Right.
So I love the fact that from his, the things that he did incorrectly to then, switch that and now be able to teach that. That right there goes to, one, your authenticity, and also to the ability of being able to help people by having gone through that road of, the rejection and all of those other things. And I don't know about having dogs chase you. That would have been my last day. But
all it takes is one, right? That's all it takes.
Yeah, exactly. But I have had people hang up on me. But the things that you go through in sales, and sometimes it's weathering the storm. And I love the fact that he's able to do that and to help others weather the storm so that they can elevate their game and making six figures or, whatever they define as their success level.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. This has been such a great show today. It always comes to an end when you're having a good time, right?
I know, because time to go. We gotta go.
I know. But look, make sure that everyone that you tune in, all right, on every Tuesday at 6:30, this show will be aired next Tuesday. And if you are interested in placing an advertisement on the show, you can contact us at powerupshowtv@gmail.com. Visit us on mspire.com for other interviews. Join Mspire Facebook group and subscribe to Dreamspire TV on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Power Up Maximize Your Potential on Facebook and leave us a comment or a question. What are you interested in seeing from us for the next show? And remember, you've been watching the Power Up Show, Maximize Your Potential, the only place where innovation meets transformation. And you have one goal. And what's that, Cheryl?
That one goal is to power up.